and James. This is episode 5. Hey, Paige.
Hey, how are you?
Great, not too bad.
How's well, yeah, how's life?
Life is good. We a little stressful, not gonna lie, but hey, I'm just glad that we're able to do episode 5 already. I mean, this is, just a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, we're doing episode 1, so I'm pleased.
I know this is kind of a milestone, like a small one, so
Yeah, it
I
is.
am pleased too. I mean, we got to take what we can get these days, and like you said, I agree. It's kind of a stressful time, but we're surviving and we're
Yeah,
thriving when we can. So I take this
yeah.
as a win.
Oh, absolutely. So we're gonna dive right into episode, but before we do that, what was
Yes.
one high of your past week?
Ooh, oh my gosh, putting me on the spot.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, wow. One high, let's see. Okay, this is going to be like for all of you that have been following us and kind of know that I'm obsessed with hip thrust, you're going to be like an eye roll right now, but sorry, I'm going to say
No,
it
anything
anyways.
goes. Anything goes.
I like switched up my form on hip thrusting. So now when I lock out, I put the bar kind of on my upper thigh versus on my hips itself, and it makes my lockout, and I straighten my arms, and it makes my lockout about 10 times easier. I had like a eureka moment in the gym the other day. So I can lift heavier, do it with better technique. Like, not, it feels amazing. And that was a big win. So I'm excited about that.
There you go. Perfect. Wait,
Yeah.
so um arm straighter. So do you mean like farther apart or
So, well, okay, yes and yes. So
okay.
I have a wider grip now on the bar. So it feels like, especially with a long bar with hip thrust, I feel like it gives me more stability, which is awesome. And then what I mean by straight arms is that whenever I'm at the bottom of the thrust, so like sitting on the ground, yes, my arms are bent. That's a
Gotcha.
no-brainer. But then when I thrust up, I kind of like roll the bar down my leg to get it,
Yeah, okay.
and then I lock out with straight arms. So now it's like my hips are free, but my glutes are still obviously doing the work. So it's just like it's easier to lock out properly. So
Sweet. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
guys, if you're listening, have any questions about how to do a good hip thrust page, definitely just figure out a better way. I mean, like honestly, that sounds great because sometimes hip thrusts, I love them, but they're like sometimes it can be
Well,
awkward. You know, just like
yeah,
yeah,
and they shouldn't be painful. And so
yeah.
I finally like been being so stupid about this for so long. So yes, I'm trying to learn from the best. So if you have questions, reach out to me.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Awesome.
On that note, what's your high of the week?
My high, I should have, I should have been more prepared because obviously I knew this was coming. My high this week was I got to spend some quality time playing video games with my siblings. Honestly, um, last night and then 3 nights ago. So last night and 3 nights ago, we played Call of Duty and Fortnite, and no shame, it was so fun. Um, and yeah, so that was my high for this week. It was just we had good laughs, good times. So
Yeah, honestly, I just posted about it, like stress relief, so important. Doing things non-workout related, non-job related, living in the moment for you. Yay,
yeah,
that's awesome.
good. Well, there you go. I just wanted to just start that on a note because start out this podcast on a happy, good note because I think it's important to recognize the little victories in life for
Yes,
everybody and includes us.
100%. Yes.
Good.
All
Well, so
right.
like I said, this is episode 5, and we are talking about nutrition and recovery. Um, it just in training in general, and kind of just overall how to live a little healthier lifestyle while having those two factors, key factors in mind.
Yes,
Um,
because yeah, last week, I mean, or not last week, last episode, we kind of touched on the whole like, I don't know, we got into the technical aspects of training. And
yeah,
so now we're trying to find the complement to that, which is you can't train hard and optimally without great recovery and nutrition. And those are, I think, factors that people really take for granted and kind of sideline and are like, oh, I just have to go to the gym in order to like get the results. But there's so much work behind the scenes that has to be done. So yeah,
yes, yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. Really good way of saying it. Behind the scene work, nutrition and training, recovery are behind the scene work in a way, and upfront work. But
it's not the glamorous part of lifting, right? Or
no,
you
it's
know what
not. Yeah,
I
yeah. And
mean?
honestly, it's kind of one of the harder parts too. We're gonna talk about sleeper pretty soon, but um, it's not easy. It's not easy to get what you need to get. So we'll kind of talk about what's optimal versus realistic.
Mhm.
because that's you know that's real.
Yes, absolutely. So, do you want to start on
Yeah, yeah.
just
So
sleep?
let's dive right in. Okay, so
Okay.
sleep, sleep for me, and it's funny because I'm pretty big into the literature, but I also because of that, it sounds like it's a very dynamic change of thought. You get everything from the group that slept 8 hours did a study that the group that slept 8 hours per night versus the group that slept 5 hours per night, they're on a diet, like a calorie deficit, and the group that slept 5 hours lost more muscle. But then at the same time, you get studies that say, 6 hours is just as good as 8 hours. So it is a little confusing. So I think the big thing that you can kind of conclude from all the research, and I'm not going to go into it too deep, but basically, there's probably for you an optimal amount of sleep, kind of depending on your specific current situation. Um,
Yes,
so
I
and
100%
yeah,
agree.
so like it's hard to say like exactly 8 hours, exactly 6 hours. But I think I know everybody kind of just like intuitively knows this. Um, but I think one thing too that people don't really realize is that like that's always changing. So if your life is like super super physically stressful, let's give an example. So say you're a college student and you have their week of finals, and you're still training and you have a job and you just got in a big fight with your significant other. Just like a really stressful time in your life. Um, that could potentially mean that like your demand for sleep and recovery is going to be more than when your life is really chill, and life is going great. You don't have your whatever it is, you're on vacation, or I don't know, just an example. I'm not saying this is like hard fast rules or anything, but just kind of interesting to realize that it's always dynamic, um, depending on the situation. So um,
Yeah, and I was just going to add on to that. Like, I'm thinking about even when you're injured a little bit, like, I kind of tweaked my back doing a deadlift the other week and I was worried about it. Anyways, all good now. But like even going through kind of a muscle tweak like that, I just noticed I've been sleeping like if I can, like 9 hours and still getting up and
oh
feeling like
wow.
I know, which I mean, if I could do that in a perfect world every night, like I would, but that's not really realistic, right?
Right.
I don't know. So I just noticed for me, like if my nervous system, maybe if I'm like going through like a peak week with my training and I'm like going pushing really hard, I definitely need that extra recovery and extra sleep. And then if I'm like deloading, I feel like I could get away with like 7 hours maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, or and even just like well, I like that too because for me, especially when I'm deloading, I I I do tend to get better sleep when I'm deloading. I think, just kind of
Hmm.
overall, just because I'm not pushing myself so hard. Um, and then there's also it's funny too because like okay, so there's like the real like the optimal part of it. So you want to get as much. It's kind of a dumb answer. Like you want to get as much sleep as you need based on your current situation. Um, and basically, I think that number you can find out just by kind of like what makes you feel good. If you go through your days and you're super super tired and you're not getting only getting 5 hours of sleep, well, that's probably not enough. But I also understand that there's a life that can get in the way. Paige, are you
Yeah. Oh, I'm
okay? Okay,
there.
sorry. Yeah. Oh, your
I
picture
think
just froze.
my screen. Oh, that's weird. I'm looking really sad in that picture. Anyways, no, I'm there.
Okay.
But
Um,
what I was gonna say is yes, life gets in the way, and you can't strive for perfection when it comes to sleep. I think you should rather strive for just improving little habits, and all those little habits do add up and they do count. So instead of striving, getting mad at yourself because you can't be that person that gets 8 hours every night. I mean, realistically, none of us can. You know what I mean? That's life. So I think you just have to do what works best for you, and those little improvements do add up and you'll notice a difference in like your training and your demeanor and everything.
yeah. So with that too, there's kind of also a spectrum of like less is not good and then more is not good too. And it's kind of funny because like I love just sleeping because it's kind of a way to turn my brain off and like not necessarily like I need it. So I've been waking up a lot earlier than I used to, um, and I've been kind of managing it decent enough to where I can go to bed in a early enough time to make it like get enough sleep. But I just don't really want to wake up because I like just like being in bed warm and like it's just such a
Yeah.
lazy thing to say, but I still get my stuff done. But it's just like it's funny because I'm kind of using like sleep as like a crutch to like not have to face reality.
Well, no, I
in a
mean
weird sort of way.
yeah, I mean, I think we'd all be lying to ourselves if we haven't felt that way before.
Yeah.
But no, sleeping is not, I guess to kind of just cap this, like sleeping is not for the weak, and it's actually extremely important if you want to be strong in your training. So, um,
Oh yeah.
you know what
Yeah,
I
for
mean? Like
sure.
I used to think too that I could get by with, I don't know, 6 hours and still be thriving and like, oh, I can actually get more done in those 2 hours that I would be sleeping. But I don't know. It's kind of the snowball effect. Your training's going to go downhill. Even like if you've got fat loss goals, you could probably, tie into this, James. Like fat loss or sleep is really important when it comes to fat loss and like weight goals or physique goals.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you're, not like the sleep is the only thing that matters, but if your sleep is in the tank, it will for sure impact you one way or another. And probably one of the bigger ways is too is if you get bad sleep, the next day you're not going to be able to train. You're not going to be able to train hard enough. That's going to impact like your kind of weight loss goals in other ways. So it's kind of a snowball effect.
Yes.
And like I said, we're not going to get too much in the science of it, but one thing I want to talk about really quick though is kind of realistically just being real and like how to kind of manage that. So one of the big reasons why I might struggle to get sleep, I'm getting better now, but I tend to be more like a night worker. I get a lot of my work done later in the day, at least I used to, or just
Yep.
kind of like a night screen time guy, and not even necessarily like video games or on my phone, like reading studies on the computer and stuff. But there is like for sure something to be said, absolutely, about the screen time before bed. Um, and I think it kind of comes from different things. Obviously, the rays from the lights and all that kind of stuff, but also just making your brain just really, really active. And especially for
Yep.
me, I notice if I try to do work at night, like, and like I'm not like a bad stress, but like one way or another, it's stressing me out in a way or making me think about something I normally wouldn't think of or whatever, or just like get my
Yep.
brain really kind of turned on, and then that it revs up, and now it's 11 o'clock, and I'm laying there because I'm thinking about what I
Your
got to do
mind is
for.
spinning or
Yep,
your mind
yeah,
is racing
exactly.
and all the things that you want to do and you get all excited and it's like, no, why couldn't I feel this way at 9 a.m.?
Right. So one thing I've been really trying to
Yeah.
do is not using not necessarily not using my phone because I still do later at night, but like just try not to have it be the first thing that I look at before I go to bed, and then the first thing I look at before I wake up. You know what I mean? It's like not the first thing I see. And it's been
Yes.
it's been nice. I actually because I used to like go to the bathroom at 3 o'clock in the morning, then go look at my phone just like an idiot, and I would just totally screw myself over 9 times out of 10. Um, and it's kind of
We've
like
all been
no,
there.
it's kind of like no duh, James. But I mean, a lot of people do it anyway. But if like I'm telling you, it's pretty crazy how much it helps. I can even sleep all the way through the night without having to have to wake up at all because my body's kind of like more used to sleeping longer. Or I get up and I go to the bathroom, go right back to bed, and it's great.
Yeah, and
So
like I don't know, just I guess my biggest thing is yeah, don't let yourself like be a slave to social media. I don't know, because yeah, as soon as
yeah,
you get sucked in, like you get sucked in, and I like to always step back and be like, why am I sitting here scrolling through Instagram? I don't know, looking at my phone, like looking at, or even like learning, like you said, at like
yep, yep,
11 o'clock at night when I should be like shutting my brain down, calming down, because at the end of the day, is this going to benefit me physically, mentally tomorrow? Probably not, because I'm not in my greatest like headspace right now. You know what I mean? Like I'm more tired than I would be in the middle of the day, so I'm less productive. So it's like just not an optimal time in general to be. I mean, if you're a night owl and you work well at night, like I'm not saying that's not a bad thing, but like right before bed, you should be able to just turn it off and realize like, okay, what are my goals here? If my goal is to get results with my training, like be healthier, get more sleep, like this is not helping me work towards my goal. It's hindering me.
yeah. And
So,
I was gonna say too, at least like if you're up late doing something, you might as well make it not necessarily productive, but like, yeah, so last night I was up late playing video games with my siblings. Again, no shame, but like at least I was doing something like that I'm gonna remember and get joy from.
true,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so and at the very least, and there's also too, if you have to do it, ordering those UV light blocking glasses. Um,
Yeah. Or I mean, I think phones, I mean like my phone has like
yeah,
that
it has that
mode,
setting.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which probably makes somewhat of a.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read any studies on it yet, but I assume it couldn't make it any worse. So,
Yeah, right. I know. Um,
um,
well, should we move on to kind of like the bigger, well, nutrition, I guess, because that's
yes,
kind of
yeah, yeah,
something that I think we both have a lot to say, so we might as well get into it.
cool, awesome. Well, okay, so first things first, it's nutrition in itself is a huge topic, and it just totally depends on you, your goals, and everything. So I guess we're gonna try to break it down in a way that's just digestible, and still kind of get something out of it in
No pun
relation to.
intended.
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah. Seriously, I didn't think about that. Still get some out of it that's in relation to like body composition goals, performance goals, because they still both go hand in hand.
Mhm.
Um, so
And
let's.
oh, just to make
Oh
a
yeah.
disclaimer too, like, okay, maybe I'm totally missing the mark and I should know, but I am not a registered dietitian. I don't think you're a registered
Nope.
like
Nope. Yeah.
nutritionist dietitian. So like we're just coming from places that, yeah, we're not trying to get overly technical here and saying that everything we're gonna say is necessarily right. That's a
Oh no.
disclaimer.
Yeah, that'd be.
But we're
In
just
fact,
going off, I
every.
think, of our personal experience, right? And what's worked for us well, I guess.
Well, I was gonna say with that, like everything you ever hear us say or anybody say, you should never just completely take it as total facts right away. Always
Yep.
question everything and research, do your own research for sure. I mean, yeah. um, well, and it's funny too, because like, yeah, so and that's good you bring that up. We're not allowed to give the recommendations that a dietitian can make, but we can voice our opinion, and if you so choose to um, listen to us and make your own choices for yourself based on what we say, then that's cool. And if not, then that's cool too. I think we can't tell you like you have to go eat broccoli, but it's kind of silly too because like you could just not listen, and then it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it
Yeah.
is just soak it up. Just soak it up.
Yes. I don't know. I think I'd kind of like to start with at least the biggest thing for me when it comes to diet and like my training goals. I don't really get into the whole cutting bulking thing. I think you could speak more on that, James, but like
Sure.
my biggest thing when it comes to if you want to gain muscle, your goal is hypertrophy and strength, getting enough protein is super important.
Oh, so we want to talk about protein. We can talk about protein.
I do want to talk about protein because
Good.
I
Well, you
love
know what?
protein.
That makes me so happy because like you're the first one that ever just said, "Hey, let's just talk about protein for a couple minutes." That's great. Yeah, absolutely. No. So, um, okay. So first of all, some just general recommendations. Uh, the amount of protein you should get is pretty freaking important. It's not the most important. It's not the only important factor. I mean, but it's probably one of the most important. So, just a little math for you, and it's so easy math. I promise you can do it super easily. Get out your phone calculator. The Right now, the general recommendation in the research is anywhere from 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. But wait, you're thinking, what's a kilogram? Don't even worry about it. I did the math for you. That is 0.72 grams per pound. So say you're 200 pounds, times that by 0.72 to 1.36. So if you're 200 pounds, times that by 1.36. Then I guess like
That's a pretty big
it's pretty big range.
gap
Yeah.
or range. Yeah.
Yeah. And so really quick, uh with that range being so big, obviously there's kind of the things we want to think about. So first things first, just to keep it really simple, if you fall within that range, you're doing yourself a favor. If at the end of the day, if that is what you're hitting, and that's all you want to think about, then I'd say you're in a better place than most people are.
Hmm.
Um, and really quick too, what I was gonna say before, some people might be thinking, recommendation amount of protein. Well, the RDA is 0.8 grams per kilogram. Um, People understand that the RDA is, yes, that is the RDA. That's indeed correct. But the RDA is meant to keep 50% of the population kind of in a healthy standards, in certain measure rates that are kind of nerdy when I need to get into them. So that's not saying that's optimal. That's definitely not optimal. Probably not for you unless you're a complete couch potato. But that's, again, only to keep 50% of those people kind of in a positive nitrogen balance. But again, nerdy stuff, just in a healthy protein range.
Well, I was gonna say too, like the average person is probably not lifting like the listeners that are listening to this podcast are. You know what I mean? Like the average
Yeah,
like so you can't compare yourself to like the average population just trying to avoid being,
yeah,
obese,
yeah.
I guess, right? Because that's
M-
one of like, I
Right.
guess,
So,
the
no,
biggest
for sure.
concerns.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you look, this is a fitness podcast, so I'd hope you'd be at least somewhat interested in some type of fitness. Let's just kind of say it like that.
Yeah.
So if you're okay, so here's the next thing too. Um, Now you're saying, how do I know how many grams of protein I get? Like, so say you're 200 pounds and you want to go in the middle, you pick 1.1 gram per pound of body weight. Great place to start. So, and I'm gonna talk about some caveats to that really quick, but the reality is there's a couple ways to do it. You could track your protein. It's not necessary, but you could. Or you could just kind of just like there's food labels for a reason, and like you don't necessarily have to whip out your food scale into your app. But if you look at a package, or a thing of chicken breasts, and it says approximately 4 ounces of chicken is 26 grams of protein. It says on the package, like, just kind of eyeball. Okay, 4 ounces is probably like the size of my hand, maybe a little smaller. So just kind of get ideas. Another way to think about it is, and again, this is when you don't want to like track macros. Which if you want to track macros, that's a really easy way to know how much protein you're getting because you're tracking it. But so say for your me and you want to have 200 grams protein a day, just divide it by like 3 to 6. Just like pick an easy number between there. And there's reasons for that, and then just kind of aim for that each meal. So, okay,
Yep.
so say I want to have breakfast, and then the good thing is it's going to kind of make you aware of like how little protein you're probably getting if you're not used to eating more protein. So just like those are some easy ways to kind of just make it manageable, without, because I tell people to eat 200 grams of protein, but like they're like, what does that even mean? Well, look at the food label, do your own research, and you can be surprised of how much you can kind of just quickly realize that it's not too hard to figure out that number if you know what that number is. So
and from like, I mean, and yeah, I completely agree with that, and I kind of do that myself. Like coming from a non, I guess, physique focused, like background,
yeah,
more like just gaining strength. Yeah, that's really what I do. I just roughly track my protein throughout the day. So food labels. And then like, if you're a normal person, you'll probably get in like be eating similar things every day unless let's say you're on vacation, you know what I mean? Or
yep,
like your
yep,
routine is switched up. So it'll become easier because you'll just remember like, okay, there's this much protein in this and I eat this morning for breakfast. So then you just start to remember these things. It's not a huge chore, honestly, to like roughly track that in your head. Sometimes I even throw the numbers like in my calculator on my phone and just like
good, yeah,
I
that's
keep the app
perfect.
open all day. And then if I'm like, oh shoot, I can't remember what I was at yet, like what do I need in my next snack? I'm kind of like, oh, it's right here. So I don't know. And then I like what you said too about like keeping it realistic by like getting like let's say 30 grams in each meal or shooting for that rather than being low all day and then it's 10 p.m. and you're like, oh crap, I've got like 60 grams to make up for like
Yeah,
you know.
yep. No, so you nailed it. So actually, I was going to say, well, okay, so a couple things there. The reason I said 3 to 6 meals is there's a certain amount of protein you want to get in each meal that kind of turns on the kind of protein mechanisms in your body that make the magic happen. So, if you're supposed to have 200 grams a day and you have 4 meals, and then, meal 1, 2, and 3 are all 15 grams, and you had a crap ton the fourth meal 1, 2, and 3 really weren't doing a whole lot for you. And then meal 4 were not doing too much, but it kind of like some of it kind of not got used the best way it could, if that makes sense. So,
Hmm.
again, I don't want to get too much into it, but basically there's a kind of minimum amount you need to make the magic happen, let's just say, and then there's kind of a ceiling, a kind of a maximum amount that if you have anything more than that, it might not be too beneficial.
So what would you
Um,
say just to like
yeah,
be
so
get it out there, what's the rough minimum and max just so people can keep that in
yeah,
their head?
so it's pretty easy. The minimum is, and I'm gonna do it in pounds because just to make it easy. So 0.18 grams per pound of body weight. So again, I'm gonna do my calculator quick. If I am 200 pounds, 200 times 0.18, So 200 times 0.18, 36 grams, about. So that's kind of my minimal amount I want to shoot for. And then the maximum amount is
Per meal, right?
per meal. Yep. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
and then, so like anything under that, not like it's worthless. It's not worthless, but it's probably more in your favor to have at least that minimum amount per meal. And again, this is while still trying to have this maximum or the amount per day too. Um, but that's a
Okay,
good place
so
to
then,
start.
yeah, and I'm just, okay, so you kind of did your weight. Now for like our female
Yeah. So,
listeners,
so what would
I
you
just,
be?
so I calculated it. I'm roughly like, I don't know, I went up to 150 recently, which again, not concerned about the scale, but I'm working with it.
Right.
um,
Right.
but yeah, so 150 times 0.18, 27 grams. So, which honestly,
Perfect.
to me, someone who prioritizes it doesn't seem crazy at all. But
No, no, not at
for
all.
people who don't, that might be a stretch. But then here's what I'm going to say to that. One thing that I have really focused on, I don't know, recently, whenever I started focusing on my protein intake, was just, I like to say, like, snack with intention and kind of like go into your snack knowing that it has a purpose for fueling your body, and don't just like mindlessly eat things that you just want to eat and don't really think about it. You can still obviously eat what you want and enjoy it. Like that's just like the part of having a healthy relationship with food. But like, I don't know, put a little bit of work behind it, and I think it'll pay off, because if you
Yeah.
snack with mindfully, with like going in like, okay, I'm going to shoot for 27 grams, you will make that happen. You just have to like have that in the back of your mind.
Oh yeah, and really, I'm telling you, it's not as hard as it sounds. So say you have that 27 grams in your head, or just whatever it is. For me, and honestly, I probably play safe and round up a little bit, so I might like go 30 for you and 40 for me. I usually have 50 per meal, like anyway, because I just play it safe. But so say you have a number per meal, which is a good thing to shoot for because it's just easy to remember. You could literally go in your pantry, like when you're making a meal in your fridge, whatever. Just kind of like look at the labels, like look it up online, whatever, and be like, okay, I'm gonna have a turkey wrap. I need like each wrap has like 4 grams of 6 grams of protein, and then I'm gonna put some cheese in there. Okay, each of those 2 pieces of cheese has 6 grams. Now I'm at whatever, and then I'm gonna put some turkey in it. Okay, and like now, okay, I'm probably at about 30,
Mhm.
whatever. So it's actually not that hard to do. It's a little effort, but I'm telling you, it's not too bad.
And it's honestly kind of fun, because by the end of the day, when you hit your protein goal, you're like, hell yeah, I did
Oh
that.
yeah, and then
Like I am,
too.
yeah, and it's like I am setting myself up for success, rather than just kind of like going in blindly being like, well, I don't know if I ate enough today, but here's hoping. Like, why not be a little more strategic about it? And it will pay off. Like,
Yeah.
I've noticed a huge difference once I started eating more protein. I just feel 1,000 times better than I used to. So,
Yeah, and so with that too, I don't really want to reinvent the wheel and talk about the benefits of protein right now because there's clearly obviously benefits of eating a high protein diet.
yeah.
Um, but there is some cool things I don't think people realize. There's a lot of studies out there that do compare low protein to high protein in both sedentary and active individuals. And the high protein just that usually means protein within this range, the 0.72 to 1.36, somewhere in there. It's not always that, but whatever, somewhere in there. Just always beats the low protein group as far as like if they're doing a fat loss study, like amount of fat loss, amount of muscle gained, this and that, certain hormone tests, just it's too good to not be thinking about, and just such an easy thing, such a low hanging fruit. I mean, like to do.
Absolutely. And it makes you, I mean, another perk of it, it just makes you fuller for longer. So, I mean, if you are kind of on that weight loss, if that's a goal as well as building muscle, like you want to lose fat at the same time, like that's why having a high protein, like high fiber, I guess, diet is so important, because you can just, you won't want to snack as much, I don't think, because you'll just be fuller. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, no, and I think that there's definitely something to that too. Like, kind of on a, so it's interesting. So on a local scale, like for sure, so say you only had 20 grams of protein a day versus 200, just super extreme example. But like, yeah, I would go and be pretty confident to say like you would be fuller. And that also depends on like how much fiber you have in your day and how far you into your diet and stuff. But generally speaking, yeah, and it's kind of just like if you have a nice good meal of chicken and potatoes, um, compared to like waffles, like what's going to keep you full? Like come on,
Yep.
we all know that answer. We don't need any science
Yep.
to tell us that. Like, you ever eat two pancakes and you're starving 10 minutes later? Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
you
And
know.
then and going off that, I mean, thinking about the other food groups, like that's when you said two pancakes versus I now kind of go into my meals trying to include like all the important food groups in it because they all serve a really important purpose. Like having your healthy fats, even your fats, like fat is not bad, carbs are not bad. They serve a really like I just said an important purpose. And if you don't kind of have all those components working together, you're not gonna like if you're missing fat, for example, fat gives you energy, it gives you fuel, and like you're not gonna be as full. Yeah, you're gonna get hungrier quicker if you don't have that food group in the meal.
Yeah, just a good mix. I think,
Yeah.
and we could go into this in depth. So generally and I'm just going to kind of speak of what I believe and kind of what I do with my clients, and you can kind of speak with you too.
Sure.
So I think we talked about this before, but in the past, 5 years ago, 4 years, I think it was 5 years ago now, you know, I definitely looked at nutrition through a very, very narrow lens. Cherry picked data, the whole keto thing. Um, the thing I'm getting, the kind of realizing now, and just what I kind of preach too, is like at the end of the day, there is optimal and there is suboptimal, but there's also kind of realistic. And I'm telling you, hardcore restriction usually is kind of what messes things up by the end of the day. I truly believe that, because there's a point where you do kind of got to restrict a little bit, like as far as like, you can't just go have ice cream every single meal and expect to totally achieve your goals and be super healthy and be great. Um, but there's also, you can't only eat, these, I quote, perfect foods, healthy, good foods, and, not kind of expect some kind of repercussion. So for example,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, so like it just really comes down to a balance. So that's why, I think clients are surprised when I'm like, it depends who you are, but I have one client right now I'm thinking of mind where their nutrition plan, nutrition guidance help. Gotta be careful what I say. They one meal is they have a minimal protein amount. So I'm like, okay, for this meal, get 50 grams of protein, and then or whatever it is, and I want you to have 400 calories of whatever the heck you want. Like whatever, I don't care what it is. I don't if it's more protein, great. If it's ice cream, great. If it's a potato, great. And people are just like, what? Like, some people just like lose their minds. Like not like in a bad way, just like it's like I can have a cookie if I want. I'm like, yeah, like like as long as
Yeah,
you follow the parameters of your other stuff, then yeah, you're good.
and hearing that come from you who is, a physique coach, like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's what your main clientele is. Like that's really exciting for me because I guess I didn't really think about that. But also like I think there's this kind of overall myth that people think like, oh, if I like want to improve my body composition, I do have to restrict myself and like I do have to let go of the things that I really enjoy eating. And it's like, no, like you will get better results, more sustainable results with a sustainable diet and like something
Yes.
that's balanced
Yeah.
and something you can actually like be realistic about. Like stop lying to yourself like, oh, I'm just gonna cut out all carbs for a week and it's gonna be great. And then I'll love it so much that I'll just keep doing it. Like stuff like
No.
that, yeah. Is yeah, restriction in my opinion equals unhappiness. So I don't know. When it comes
No.
to diet.
And there's a lot we can dive into here too. So like I said, you're gonna have to, if your goal, let's just pick fat loss because it's kind of an easy one to talk about. If your goal is fat loss, like you're gonna have to restrict calories. Like you have to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. There's like no
Yeah.
way around that. It's like the law of thermodynamics. But like nobody ever said that it has to come from only
Only
lean
lean
meat
meats
and
and
potatoes
vegetables.
and rice. Like not gonna lie. So with that being said, here's kind of the general system I use for nutrition. Um, yes, I do, like I'm totally cool if my client wants a cookie or whatever they want. And if they want to enjoy a glass of wine with their fiance, like that's awesome. I think that's great. Um, but we kind of follow the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
So I give them their nutrition plan, and it has pretty like not rigorous, but guidelines, pretty easy to follow guidelines. Like here's how to succeed. So as long as they eat, aim or eat within those guidelines, it's kind of 80% of those foods should be more towards the whole grain protein, like leaner protein, kind of just the foods that you kind of know you like should be eating. Foods that are full of vitamins, minerals, and fiber. That kind of stuff is kind of what I'm going for. So as long as you have 80% of those foods, and then the other 20%, if you want mac and cheese instead of rice for your carbs, great, great, that's awesome.
Yep.
Like I said, and so that we kind of have different structures in a way where we can still make it healthy and productive and optimal. Because in no way am I saying like, all my clients only eat cookies and they're doing great. No, that's stupid. But so if you follow some parameters, kind of some guidelines, then yeah, you can definitely have flexibility. I think it's so toxic when people say, like I can, you should only eat things that are white, or you should avoid everything that are white, and no gluten, no soy, no dairy, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh my
Yes.
God, like just have ice cubes? Like, come on.
Well, and that goes along with training too. I feel like whenever people have such an extreme point of view, I feel like a little red flag should pop up and be like, I don't think that's necessarily accurate, because people can, like, I don't know, preach their viewpoints all day long, but like you should never, I don't think I just saw a post about this when it comes to like certain exercises. Like people are gonna hate on like hip thrust or like, I don't know, dumbbell bench or whatever, but like I don't know, whatever works for you. Like you can't. It's not that
Yeah.
black and white, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
No, for sure. And it's funny because
everything serves its purpose.
yeah, oh,
Yeah.
for sure. And it's hard because so you want, what I like to kind of think about my clients is when I program for them, like there is optimal in my head. So, if somebody came to me and wanted to lose fat, like I know like how we could get this on the quickest, but the quickest would be probably the most like restrictive and kind of
The most
hardcore.
unenjoyable, and they
Yeah,
probably like get turned off
like,
and like end up
yeah,
having, right? They have a big weight loss, whatever, like yay, hurrah, like month thing. And then they'd probably be so like mentally exhausted and physically exhausted that I don't know if they would stick with it for the long term,
no, absolutely
right?
not. So it's
Yeah.
always a mix of what's like the most optimal compared to realistic, and then find the meet between the middle of those two, and then boom, you have a great plan.
Yeah.
An example of this could be, say somebody can wants and to lose like 20 pounds in like 2 months, which is like kind of a lot. It depends where you're coming from. Some people might be a lot, some people might not be. But let's just give that example. So what if we could extend that out to 3 or 4 months? Yes, you don't get to lose quick, and that's the downfall. You do not get to lose it as quick, but in turn, you don't be as hungry. You get to go out to eat with your family. You get to enjoy your life a little more.
Mm-hmm.
You're not as miserable, and then boom, 20 pounds gone in 4 months. You feel better than you would have if it would have been gone in 2 months, and now you're probably at a better chance to retain the weight you're to maintain your new weight compared to gaining all back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people's got to understand that like hardcore restriction 9 times out of 10 is really only good for very, very specific situations. And it's funny because all the time people like, I gotta lose weight, okay, now I'm cutting out all carbs, all sweet, never gonna look at sugar again ever. It's like whoa, you're doing things that like bodybuilders wouldn't even do very deep into the contest. Like you're going there, you're going like to 100. You're not even at zero. You're just starting. You're already going to 100 way quick. When like people that do this for a living, that get jacked for a living, aren't even doing it yet. You know what I mean? It's like whoa. It's like
Yeah.
whoa. We're making this so much harder than ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think bottom line, just to like wrap that kind of whole topic up, is just like be kind to yourself and be realistic with your goals and make it something that because that little voice in the back of your head is saying, okay, I can actually stick with this. Like this is sustainable and it's going to make me happy and let me enjoy my life. Like that is the most important thing.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of a good way to think about it too, going off of that, is like, okay, so is my plan right now working for my goals? Yes or no? Is it sustainable? Yes or no? Am I enjoying my life and making me happy? Yes or no? If like most of those are answered in a kind of a negative way, what you're doing isn't working. It's just not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if like and even if like one or, I would say the majority of those should be kind of in the positive kind of bias of the yes or no, for you to have like a solid plan. So, if you're trying to lose weight and you're only eating string cheese and yogurt for 4 weeks now, and you're like, you got like bags on your eyes and you're like starting to hallucinate things, like, great, you lost 18 pounds, but you're like a zombie. Like, what are, you know what I mean? And this isn't really like, obviously people that want to perform in the gym and stuff, this really isn't for you right now, but I'm just saying that people can get in this rabbit hole so quick. They just need to just slash everything. In fact, I would even argue that a good nutrition plan adds more into your diet compared to takeout, even if it is fat loss, which is always what I try to do with my clients. I love doing that. I had a client come back to me. She's like, I am so full right now. But she's still losing weight. And I'm like, yeah, like, that's great. Like, that's okay. She's like super surprised. Like, should I be eating less? I'm like, nope, you lost, half a pound, from like day, whatever, and 2 pounds this week. And we're on track. Like, we're not going to change a thing because you're doing it.
Yeah. It's almost like people are like, is it wrong that like I actually feel full and happy? Like, shouldn't I feel miserable and like suffering?
Exactly. Shouldn't I be suffering? Do you want to be suffering?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great point. Going off that, I think we should kind of go into, just so we can cover all our bases on the whole recovery aspect of things. Do you want to kind of talk about like, I guess, well, I put on our notes here like active recovery, but I was just thinking more on like what you're doing, I don't know, maybe mobility wise, or dare I say cardio wise, outside of lifting, that'll help you.
So, okay, so there's a couple things here. Recovery, I think, in terms of like what to do outside of lifting, there's a mix between, sometimes the best recovery is just to like not do anything. But sometimes it can be to do stuff. And what I mean by that is, I think people think that like, in order to be maximally recovered, they need to like do a ton of mobility work and stretching.
Rolling. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But what people don't realize is that if you're lifting properly, you're already kind of doing a lot of that to yourself already. Let's take a perfect example. So let's take, people in like, I remember when I was an in-person trainer, my clients just love to stretch at first. But then once I have them do a couple of stiff leg deadlifts, like, if that doesn't stretch out the hamstrings, I don't know what does. And then like, I know some people might roll their eyes at this, but like, if you ever done a proper stiff leg deadlifts, your hamstring is literally in the perfect position to get absolutely stretched to their max they ever can get stretched before. You know what I mean? Like, to their max capacity. So like, stuff like that, I think the part of recovery that people have in their mind kind of superficially, a lot of it gets tackled with proper lifting. Now, I think as far as like mobility work, I think it kind of gotta be specific to you. So if you know that when you squat, your hips hurt and like you need a range of motion or whatever it is, I put in extra work before your lifting sessions to do what you got to do. That's like a whole nother podcast by itself. But I think for me, a couple of big things is like, honestly, a lot of my recovery is just not training. I mean, honestly, I think
letting yourself actually recover. I feel like
that's what I mean. Exactly.
And you can take away from your training sessions by doing all this extra mobility, stretching, whatever cardio fluff that you think is actually helping you, but it's taking away from where your energy needs to go, which is like where you're going to get the results, which is like lifting heavy weight.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going to say. I think if you're like in constantly need of recovery, like I'm kind of for just not have like, let's look at like why I need all that in the first place. If you're, because there's things like ice baths and stuff, and like Epsom salt and all this kind of stuff. And like, I mean, first of all, there's research on ice baths that they're not the greatest for some type of goals. But besides that, it's kind of just like, maybe we should just manage kind of the workload in the gym in the first place.
Exactly.
So you want me to do all this extra stuff.
Because if you're training at an optimal volume that's right for you and like allows you to recover fully in between your sessions, you should not be so beat up like every week out of the year.
Yeah,
that's what
for sure.
Deloading is for, right?
Yeah. So right, exactly. So we kind of like, perfect example. We got these systems in place like a deload that like allow you to recover, and then there's reasons why, I wouldn't program a exercise program where it's like 2 crazy intense chest days Monday and Tuesday. there's a reason why it'd be Monday and Friday or Monday and Thursday. You know what I mean? So there's stuff you do to kind of build in recovery to the system anyway without having to do all this extra kind of stuff. Now, with that being said, I do think there's a lot to say about, well, I know there's a lot to say about like walking, kind of like a quote active recovery. Um, if I would, if I, yep, yeah, you are too. You know, if I were to do kind of one active recovery, definitely just be walking. There's just way too much good research about how beneficial it is as far as everything from de-stressing to lowering blood glucose after meals quicker, and just kind of, you know, like a nervous system cool down sort of thing. So, you know, if I had to do one, it just, you know, I have a set a step counter. I get my 8,500 steps in a day. Right now is my goal, for other reasons too. But yeah, so I think like going on a big walk is just so underrated. You know, you don't even necessarily doing these like recovery workouts. Just like do your workout and then stop.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was just, and this is something I was just thinking about today. Like people use their workouts as a form of stress relief, and it definitely is a form of stress relief, but it's also a big form of it's a big stress on your body if you're doing it right. Right. So like something like walking, that's something that you should do in addition to the lifting, because that's when you give your nervous system a break. You actually like let your mind just wander. And so I mean you have to have that balance of like having both.
Well, and really quick too, could you imagine if you like had to program all your workouts plus like these equally long as a session of like mobility and stretching work? So now I'm doing like 2 times the amount of workouts in a week. That'd be like 20 hours working out for me, like 26 hours.
It's so unrealistic. And it kind of like ties into what we were just saying about the diet. Like if your diet's not sustainable, if your training is not sustainable, you are not going to stick to it. And you're just going to be intimidated by it. And, you know, I've been there because, I would look at like influencers, whatever, and like all this mobility, like foam rolling stuff that they do all the time. And I was like, wait, should I be doing that? And then I'm thinking to myself, like, I think it has to be like personalized to you and your specific anatomy, mobility. You don't need to just be doing it to do it.
Just to do it. No, exactly.
Right.
And so just kind of wrap up, like, and I just want to make a point clear that, you know, mobility definitely is a very good thing, and all the, you know, flexibility and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's not like it should be, we're not discrediting it, but it just has to be specific to you. So just kind of don't do it just to do it because some guy says so. Do it, you know, so say like your shoulder has bad mobility and you can't go, like, you know, every time you go external rotation, you get pain and everything like that. Yeah, that's something you need to work on. Like you probably hire a professional to do, you know, see a PT. But then in that case, then you need to throw some stuff in there. But like as far as like recovery and stuff, just do what you're supposed to do in the gym in a productive manner in the first place, where you don't need a whole ton of extra noise. And then you're good to go. You know, do proper warm-ups so you don't get injured. Do sufficient volume, manage your recovery in that sort of way, and then the dice will kind of just take care of themselves.
Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree.
I guess really quick on that though, recovery nutrition, and I know this kind of whole podcast on recovery nutrition, but kind of dialing in. I really have had good success with a couple supplements and nutrition around my training. So the one supplement that I can kind of almost confidently recommend to everybody is just creatine. And it's nothing crazy. It's nothing new. There's like over thousands, like 1,005, I think it's 1,500, no, 300, I don't know, something like that. Studies on creatine. So it's super efficient, super safe. I definitely have noticed more so when I kind of come off of it, whether it's on accident or whatever it is, that you know, recovery can be impacted there, just as far as like how my training feels, how my performance is on a kind of a global scale. But one thing I've been messing around with this past 8 months or 7 months, 8 months is intra-workout nutrition. So drinking carbs and protein or protein.
I was just gonna ask
during the workout.
So I've seen like your posts or whatever about like, well, I think it's like, is it a tablespoon or a teaspoon of table salt?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming, is that some like electrolyte related or something?
So the theory behind that is, especially when you're dieting, and I'm kind of weaning off it now that I'm not dieting anymore. But basically what it does is it increases blood volume, and you know, kind of like I said, increases blood volume to your muscles, so you essentially can kind of get a better quote pump and like easy ways to say it. So like A1, it kind of like makes you feel that stimulation of lifting a little more. So when you are dieting, lifting feels a little more bland in again, simple terms. So I can kind of
Yeah.
like revamp it up. And too, when you're dieting, you don't have as much salt in your diet anyway because your food is just less. So kind of by default, you'd have less, and then those pathways that salt is involved in, kind of um, like the increased blood volume diminishes a little bit. So that's why I'm starting to wean off of it now. I haven't done it the last couple of days. The last time I posted on Instagram was the last time I actually did it. But before that, it was like about 3 months in a row. Yeah, so it's kind of nice. So and then also cool, it kind of gets you. Not gonna lie, and this is totally like such a bro thing to say, but the salt in general, it does make you more, because of that increased blood flow, more vascular, just a little bit, and it's
Interesting.
kind of cool. I mean, it literally, like, cosmetically, it's just kind of cool. That's not
Yeah.
why I do it. I do it to increase performance, and because I know the benefits of sodium, but it's kind of cool. If a little chest vein pops, I'm not gonna complain. It just makes me feel good.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I don't know. Why not try
yeah,
experiment a little bit, I guess, or see what works for you, right?
yeah,
Why not?
and this is pretty dang specific. I don't recommend. I don't know if I would recommend people taking salt during their. It would have to be really individual client kind of sort of basis.
Yeah,
Um,
so maybe making this okay, generalizing it more, but what were you saying? I'm curious about because I've never dabbled in the whole creatine thing. What were you saying, or why do you recommend it so much?
yeah, it's like I said, just one of the most popular supplements studied out there, and that's always a good sign in the first place. So the without going into the whole science part of it, um, what creatine basically does is just exacerbate what lifting already does. So like it's not like because your body makes creatine and you eat creatine every single day. So it's not like some crazy out there supplement that we don't know about. So and like your body uses creatine during lifting to make parts of lifting happen. So like you're already doing these things, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, whatever. So it just kind of makes those beneficial things that are happening just more apparent and more abundant.
I see.
And again, especially with, like, I don't want to get too much into it, but the ATP cycle and all that kind of creatine phosphate, all that kind of stuff. Like it's key things that are important for making lifting happen. Consensually contracting your muscles, stuff like that. Um, Creatine is a big factor in that. And what essentially taking creatine does, it kind of tops off those stores in your body. So you just have more of it. So more of the processes can happen. Like I said, just kind of more throughout the workout, and you always kind of have little more reserves than if you didn't take it. So just like a little,
So
it
it
is,
just like
yeah.
enhances your natural
Yeah,
stores, I
yeah,
guess, right?
exactly. And then like I said, you don't have to be afraid of it because you literally make it in your body and you eat it. If you ever eat a pork chop, you ate creatine. Congrats.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's just helpful in general, just from a performance and a recovery standpoint.
Yeah.
And it does a lot more than that in your body than just lifting stuff. It's a very important part of your body. But yeah, and so without getting
So,
too far.
well, would
Oh
you
yeah,
say though, just thinking about like everyone who's listening, maybe you're not like maybe your style of training isn't lifting focused, let's say, would you still recommend creatine for people who are more into like, I don't know, let's say lighter
yeah.
weights or more like aerobic, I don't know, training. Like is that
So
going to be beneficial for them?
so if you would have asked me like a year ago, I probably would have said no. But now I think I would honestly still say yes.
Hmm.
First of all, it's so cheap. It's like $12 for like 3 months. Like it's stupidly cheap.
Hmm.
Um, and also, there's now a lot of research going into the cognitive benefits of it. Um, Especially like that the big on like cognitive benefits in like aging populations. Um, and I don't I can't have I read a study a while ago. I don't have one. I don't want to go into detail right now. I just want to give any inaccurate information. But there's just a lot more cool stuff that has nothing to do with lifting that is beneficial anyway. And it's not, and again, it's of no surprise because our body makes it for a reason. And we're not meant to lift weights. So like, there's a reason why it's in our body. Um, and we know those reasons, but now we're kind of discovering more cool stuff that has to do with not even without lifting anyway. So, um, again, it'll be kind of on an individual basis. If you're just like a mom that is kind of just starting her journey, I'll probably say no. So it's just we gotta get the fundamentals down. But once you have the fundamentals down, at least a little bit, then yeah, I say for sure.
Yeah. That's really
Um,
interesting. I definitely learned something new because I've never
yeah,
considered really trying it, or I guess not considered, but just really
yeah,
thought more about it. So yeah, I appreciate that.
yeah, and like, and and I don't want to get if you want to learn more about it, go to examine.com. Examine.com, it'll tell you basically everything you need to know as far as doses and all that kind of stuff and research on it.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of leave it at that if you want to learn more, but
And
just to
maybe too, underneath the podcast episode, you could link like kind of your favorite brands for like creatine, for
oh
example,
sure,
or
yeah,
like
stuff I've been
something that
using.
you
Yeah.
really trust. Just because I'm assuming you only want to throw out like products that
Yeah.
are clean that aren't going to harm anyone.
Well, so I'll do one easier. So just there's a ton of creatines out there. There's so many different kinds. Just get creatine monohydrate. Just get that's the only ingredients in it, creatine monohydrate. Don't get ethyl ester, don't get hydrolyzed, don't get anything else. Creatine monohydrate literally saturates, has 100% saturation rate, or level, like 100%. Nothing, you can't get above 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like all these other
Yeah,
supplements, like
exactly.
I'm so much like, buy my creatine kind because it's so much better than monohydrate. Well, like what's better than 100%?
Yeah.
Nothing, zero, no, nothing
Yeah.
is. So there's that. So yeah, just if you look on Amazon, just creatine monohydrate, look at the label. If that's the only thing in it, boom, you're good to go.
Okay, cool. And on that
Um,
note too, I think about,
yeah,
well, supplements. Why don't we just like do everyone a favor and kind of throw out like our favorite like supplements, whether that's protein powder, creatine,
yeah,
if you know what I mean? Like why not? Just so
yeah.
they can kind of,
No, why
the
not? Yeah,
listeners
exactly.
can kind of see where we're coming from, and then they can do their own research from there.
I like that a lot. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
do you want to kind of keep rambling on? I guess I.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
I
Okay.
mean, I think I don't know. I think we've kind of hit everything from that point. And
No, I mean just
again,
like yeah, yeah. I'll just kind of go list my supplements because I guess people already know I creatine, salt. So, um,
yeah, yeah.
so I right now I'm taking just fish oil, omega 3, um, vitamin D, zinc, magnesium. It's kind of a long list, so I'll just bear with me here. So we got vitamin D, zinc, magnesium, um, and a multi and CoQ10. I think that's everything. Oh, you know what? And this is brings up to a good point. I forgot to talk about the sleeping portion. I really really like the combination of zinc and magnesium uh, before bed to sleep. Um,
Interesting.
so I'm gonna leave it at that because we can go into that again probably a whole time on that
Yeah,
podcast of
maybe we
just
could do
that.
a whole
But
episode on vitamins.
so yeah, so if you're having trouble sleeping and falling asleep and staying asleep, just look up kind of zinc magnesium sleep on Google Scholar or just like Google or whatever, and some cool stuff will come up. So there you go.
Yeah. Oh, and well, I mean, on that note, just to like talk about what I take, because I'm a big fan of like vitamins as well. Like I take them every
Yeah.
day. So I don't know if it's just a brand, but it's called Vita Antioxidants. Antioxidants, vitamin D is huge. Also, I feel like for people like us who live in Minnesota and don't get a lot of sunlight in the winter, like I
Mhm.
don't know, it's a big thing when it comes to mood and apparently warding off COVID. So there you go.
Yeah. Right.
Take your vitamin D. And then I've also got like core minerals and collagen is a big one for me as well.
Oh
So
sure.
I mean, that has to do
That's
with, I
cool.
mean, hair, skin, nails, but also bones. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel
Yeah.
like you can't go wrong with that one.
Yeah. I know a lot more people taking collagen. I've never taken it before, but yeah, it's just a protein and it's got some good science behind it, so that's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. So,
Um, yeah, and I guess like I'm assuming we both take protein powder.
yes,
If
yes,
you want
yes.
to, if you want to, I consider that more of a food, but
Right. I know. I mean, technically it's a supplement. Like you shouldn't be having like 3 protein shakes a day. I mean, maybe I'm speaking just for myself here, but
yeah, and I think the biggest thing there is just a cost or probably a little more spending than other sources, and also
yeah.
probably not going to fill you up. It's a great source of protein, don't get me wrong, but
Yes.
just kind of practical, like I don't know, 3 protein shakes a day. I shouldn't be. Sometimes I
I'm like,
sometimes I do
are
that.
you guilty of that?
Oh yeah, for sure, but like I don't enjoy it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a reason why they're called supplements. They're not supposed to replace your normal diet,
Right.
right? They're supposed to supplement it. So,
Yeah. So I guess you could technically say and this people are gonna. Oh, I was gonna talk about this before when I was talking about my nutrition or intra workout nutrition, but I do. often have carbs, as in like a form of sugary drink during my workout. Um, so I am talking like Gatorade and Powerade. And people are gonna this is weird, but I don't care. It's powdered sugar and chocolate protein powder mixed together. Um,
Oh, I saw that too on your like
yeah,
story or whatever. I was like,
and
interesting. Huh.
this is funny because like this is also one of the things where people think health and weight loss and stuff. Oh my God, you're eating like sugar? Like what? Yes, I am, and it's okay. And it's very beneficial for me in this particular case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason for this is, when you're working out, carbs are your friend in simple terms. And especially when you're in a massing phase, these carbs kind of get put to really, really good use in the immediate kind of workout itself. Just as far as kind of starting the recovery process earlier and well, a lot of muscle growth factors too. So just kind of a low hanging fruit to eat your carbs closer to your workout, and especially drinking them during your workout. Just kind of kickstart some cool processes that are more beneficial, for in my case. So that's why I do that. And quite honestly, another kind of practical takeaway is that I have some of my clients do this too. Um, say somebody is trying to gain weight and they just aren't the biggest fan of eating a lot of food. If you can drink, and again, we're still using the 80-20 rule. I'm not having my clients drink, all the carbs coming from Gatorade. But if they can have a Gatorade during the workout, I know it's going to be beneficial as far as kind of a recovery and muscle growth kind of standpoint goes. But also, that's just like, if I can get those calories in their body in a way that I know is going to be productive, and it's less food that I know they might not eat later, then that's a win-win. I mean,
Well, that's the
so
thing. I feel
yeah.
like you have to be strategic about your timing with these things, right?
Yeah, and I know
So
for me,
that's a good point.
right, and for me, like when I get later in my kind of massing phases, when like I'm actually hungry all the time, and the last thing I want to do is eat like another cup of rice. Drinking it is just easy and quick. I use we make homemade apple cider at home. My dad, we have a big apple kind of orchard, and we make homemade apple cider. So we have a lot of jugs of that, and it's delicious and it's great. So if I can just kind of down 40 grams of carbs and apple cider, then more power to
Versus
me.
eating like a loaded baked potato. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That
So
makes
just
sense.
stuff like that, kind of a practical scientific side, plus just a side that people might not think about too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you couldn't tell, we're definitely not. Sugar isn't bad. I just want to get that out there because I think
Yeah, if
some
you can take
people still.
yeah, if you can take one thing away from this whole podcast,
Right.
carbs
Yeah.
aren't bad, sugar isn't bad.
Not
So
bad. Yeah. It
jokingly
can
and
be.
seriously.
It can be if for sure. Chicken breast can make you fat, and healthy if you ate too much of it, for sure.
Yeah.
If you only drank Gatorade for like a long time in a row, your teeth would probably fall out, and yeah, you're probably pretty unhealthy. But like, no, yeah. So it's just kind of silly. I think in the right application, it can be totally work in your favor. So
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. I think that was good. I think it was productive and informational, but fun. So I don't know
yeah.
anything.
Well,
Um,
well, I was gonna say, like always, we super appreciate feedback. So
yes,
if anybody has any suggestions or want to learn some more things, um, always open to that. So
we're always open to like. I mean, it is. I guess once we like start getting the wheels turning in our head, easy to come up with like episode ideas. But if you have anything that's really been like on your mind that you want to hear us talk about, like please let us know because there's nothing we'd like more than to like fulfill what you guys want to know versus just what we want to talk about. So
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, good episode. There's episode 5, and as always, thanks a lot, guys. We really do appreciate
Yes.
this because it's fun for us, and we hope.
Whenever, or sorry, go
No,
ahead.
go for it. No,
I
no,
was gonna
finish up. You're
say,
good.
whenever I have like friends of mine be like, oh, like I'm only in episode 2, but I have been listening and I just like love hearing about your life, blah blah blah. I'm just like that just means so much to me that you just decided to like take time out of your day or like listen to it when you're at work. Like it's huge. So like every little listen counts and we really do appreciate it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Can agree more.
Yeah. So, well, okay, well we will see you guys or hear you guys. I don't know. See you guys later.
Perfect. See you, everybody. Have a good one, Paige.
Bye. Yeah, you too.